Please welcome CoCo Leary. Great. How's the
Thank you. So I remember the day that I yelled at my children. I have 4 children, 4 beautiful kids, 3 girls and 1 boy. And it's not really my personality as a parent to yell at my children. In fact, my personality is anything but that. Communication, positive communication was a huge thing in our home. I remember that day. You see, it was a laundry day, and every stitch of clothing for everyone in our house was dirty. And I was married to someone who loved basketball. And there was a universal rule in our home that we all knew, and that was on basketball day, he did nothing but basketball watching. But again, we all needed clean clothes. So I came to him before the basketball games were going to start on ESPN. And I said, hey, why don't you take me and the kids to the laundromat? It's going to take me a couple hours to wash the clothes, and by the time I get done, your basketball game will be done, and you can come pick us up. He said, you do know today is basketball day? I do. That's why I said, take us now, and a couple hours later, pick us up when your game is done. He said, I don't do nothing on basketball day. And I said, but you got dirty clothes too. And he said, yeah, but I don't do anything on basketball day. I could feel the anger, frustration, disappointment filling up from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. I said, it's fine. I will do it myself. And I had a radio flyer wagon that I bought at a yard sale. Because you see, I was rather impoverished. I couldn't afford one straight out of retail. But man, when I was at the yard sale and I seen it, I swooped it up because that gave me a piece of middle-class America, and I knew it. I wanted middle-class America. I was tired of poverty. So in that wagon, I could find a piece of middle-class America. Now I got the wagon, and I piled all the laundry up in it. And then I took my 2 youngest children and sat them on top of the wagon to hold the laundry down. And I grabbed my Gain detergent. Because everybody knows the smell of middle-class America is Gain. And every month, I'd set aside my $6.87 for some Gain. So I've got my radio flyer wagon, and I've got my Gain. And I've got my kids, my 2 youngest ones sitting on the clothes, my 2 oldest right beside me. And it was a hot day. And I was wearing some pathetic moo-moo dress made out of some kind of sticky material, and it seemed to make the sweat even more stickier as I'm pulling the wagon. Sweat running down my face. I already looked like, well, you can imagine what it looked like. I already looked like whatever you imagine I look like. And I'm pulling this wagon, and I'm hot, my kids, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm the worst mom on the planet. What example am I giving my kids? I'm giving them the example of poverty, rejected relationships, being submissive to whatever someone else can have the control over your life, down to the fact that they can control whether or not you have clean clothes. And as I'm pulling this wagon, I'm looking at my kids, and all of a sudden something just happened to me. And I stopped, and the wagon stopped, and the kids stopped. And I looked at my children, and I said to them, "Don't you ever be like me! Do you hear me? Don't you ever be like me! You go to school, you learn, you get a good education, and you don't ever let anyone have so much control over you that they can determine whether or not you can have clean clothes on your back." I didn't realize I was yelling, though. And the thing about it is, I'm yelling at my kids. I was really yelling at myself. But they were a reflection of me, right? My oldest daughter says, "Mommy, we will go to school. Just please stop yelling at us." All of a sudden, I realized what I was doing. I said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I love you. I love you. So come on, let's get these clothes clean." So keep pulling the wagon. Something changed in me that day, though. You know, I'm a former welfare check mom and all that kind of stuff. I knew that I was going to have to do something drastic, something out of the ordinary to change me and my kids' lives. I was going to have to get downright desperate. But the first thing was I was going to have to formulate a plan to give me some baby steps. So I went and got a job. Didn't pay much, but it was a job. And it was a job at a daycare center. And one day while I was working in that daycare center, the precious little children were taking their naps. And I was doing magazine cutout art pages, ripping pages out of magazines. You know those pages with the big old broccoli and hidden farm, value. "Oh, look at this, make your vegetables taste good. Put it on a paper plate, give it to mommy and daddy, and we love that art. It's abstract, you know?" Well, all of that is that I'm going to tell you a funny thing about working in the daycare, though, before I finish all of that, is that one of the things that I really noticed was I was taking better care of the children in the daycare than I was of my own. And that compounded my feelings. Because, see, I went and got this job to change our life. I got a job taking care of other people's kids and their cute little tutus and everything that coming in, And I wasn't doing all that with my kids. So I was really feeling it, you guys. Because this was my marker. This was me getting out of the situation. Going to make a better life for me and my kids. So I'm making a better life with this big old piece of broccoli and Hidden Valley Ranch, Hillshire Farms, sausage. So as I'm doing this, pulling out these pages, I come across a Working Mothers magazine. I had never even heard of that magazine. I didn't even know they had magazines of working mothers. But I was a working mom. Big old broccoli and all. I was a working mom. And so I read the cover of the magazine. It said 3 women who really know how to raise a ruckus. And I was like, "Oh, I can raise them. You don't know. I can raise them ruckus right now." So I read the articles about them. And one lady stood out. Her name is Dina Dwyer Owens. And she's the CEO of the Dwyer Group in Waco, Texas. And what caught me about her article was that she was talking about having dinner with her family at IHOP. And she was paying attention to the waitress. She was watching the waitress hustle for tips. She was watching her zoom, zoom, zoom. And she said when she got home, she couldn't get the waitress out of her mind. She said that woman's feet must kill her at the end of her shift every day. And she said, as she was putting on her pajamas, she thought, if it's that hard for a woman working, what is it like for women on welfare? Oh, my goodness. what did I just read? I knew I couldn't have read that right. No. Because the only thing in print about welfare is them sending me that dadgum letter that if I don't get this paperwork done in this certain amount of time, they're going to sanction me. Nobody ever writes about people on welfare. I read it again. I remember I read it about 5 times. What I read was correct. So I did the noble thing, the upright thing, the logical thing, the rational thing. I stole that magazine. I got home, I dialed 411, and I got the physical address to her company, and I wrote her a letter. Now, I don't remember the whole letter, you guys, but I remember the first paragraph. And I said in the first paragraph, I know it must be really strange to you to receive a letter from a stranger so far away. And I know we've never had a cup of coffee, nor even exchanged Christmas recipes, but we do have something in common. You care about women on welfare, and I'm a woman on welfare. Will you please help me? About 2 weeks later, I come home from working at the daycare, and the light is blinking on my answering machine. I know it ain't nobody but Clark Public Utilities. I ain't trying to answer that. They just want to talk about you owe us some money. I know I owe you money. You think you're the only one that know I owe you money. You got about 15 other people been calling before you. I got to do this thing in order. You got to wait. So I do the dinner, I do the homework, I do the bathing, I get the kids to bed, and I push the light on the answering machine. But it wasn't Clark Public Utilities. It was a woman named Carol Dugat with a southern drawl. And she says, Cosette, my name is Carol Dugat. Dina got your letter. She wants to talk to you. Woo! Somebody pour me a drink. I rewind that message, hear it again. Oh my goodness. So let me start to wrap this up for you guys. We correspond via email because, see, I tried the telephone thing. I didn't realize that Texas was 2 hours ahead of us. So every time I was calling, her office was closed. Finally, after a while, Carol was like, I think we got a time difference, CoCo, and we're going to help you out. We're going to do this email thing. Dina wants you to start emailing her. You guys correspond that way. We did that for about 2.5 months. Then Dina flew me out as an honorary guest to her monthly franchise board meeting. And I was Cinderella. She put everything on her American Express card. And for the first time in my life, I stayed in a Hilton hotel. She began to educate me on how to empower myself. Taught me about higher learning and acquiring a college and university education. She asked me when I was with her, what do you want to do with your life? I said, I don't want to be poor anymore, and I want to help other people who are poor not be poor anymore too. She told me to take a public speaking class, and I did. And I got a B, y'all. And I knew with a B, she could be taught. I could learn. I'm standing up here sharing a little bit of my life with you. Now I hold a degree in public administration. Thank you. I graduated from my university summa cum laude. I'm an alumna of one of our nation's highest think tanks, Brookings Institution. I served in U.S. Senator Maria Cantwell's office for 3 years as her low-income advocate. That got me to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where I served in Charles B. Rangel's office out of New York, Harlem, 15th District. I am no longer a bag lady. The interesting thing is about 8 months ago, my oldest daughter called me, And she said, Mama, do you remember that day you were pulling that wagon? I said, oh, Lord. I said, yes, I do. I prepared myself for an apology. You know, I got to say I'm sorry because that was horrible what I did. But as I prepared myself to get this good apology going, my daughter said to me, you were yelling at us to not be like you. I said, I remember. She said, Mama, now we're breaking our neck to be like you. Thank you. I still got my little red wagon, and I'm pulling it with pride. And I have surpassed all my own personal self-inflicted limitations. Thank you for spending some time with me. Have a great evening.